Good morning. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024, and I'll call the meeting to order of the Story County Board of Supervisors. Please stand if you're able to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment number one. The comment period is for the public to address topics on today's agenda. Oh, sorry. Guess I'm going a little quick for this Monday morning. Is there a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Moved and seconded. Merkin?
Aye.
Basil?
Aye.
Edens, aye. Like to blame it on a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. Public comment number one. This comment period is for the public to address topics on today's agenda. If you'd like to make public comment and you're online, please raise your hand on Zoom. Or if you're in the public meeting room, please come forward. And seeing none for public comment, we'll close public comment number one and we'll move on to agency reports. We've got Campfire with Kelly Peterson, Executive Director. Good morning. Yep, just have a seat up here. You'll want to pull the microphone relatively close. It's going to sound really loud to you.
Okay.
What helps to pick up?
Okay, no problem. Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. As you see by my report, we've had a very busy year, and there's just a few things that I wanted to highlight. Our numbers for Story County Youth Serve have increased, as have the number of individuals we have been able to serve with financial assistance. And I think that that is in a direct reflection of us moving to a tiered pricing. So that tiered pricing is when a family goes in to register, they choose the price break that works best for them. And so that's been a pretty easy way for families that need some financial assistance to have that quality programming for their children can obtain a reasonably priced program. The other thing is within the program days, as you see, we had program on 284 out of 365 days. That's one of our biggest goals is in the communities that we serve, we follow the school calendar to the T. So anytime there's not school, we have a program. So it's the 3-day weekends, the why are they out of school days, winter break, spring break, we provide program. And so that's the other, I think, increase of our programming is because we have chosen to follow we have 3 different communities we serve, and we follow each individual school calendar. So many of these kids come to mostly our summer program, but then they follow through participation with our school year program. And with that in mind, our after-school program in the Des Moines area has become so popular, we've decided to launch one in Story County. So beginning in fall at Camp Kenwita in Ames, there will be an after-school program at our site on Duff Avenue. So that is our plan for expansion. And the other way we're trying to meet the needs of the community is once our kids graduate from that middle school program at Camp Kenwita, we now offer them 2 opportunities within our program, which is up in Boone, and we provide transportation from Ames and up to Boone. And the first one is a service program where it's a day camp program for high schoolers to earn hours towards their silver cord. And then the second program that we've expanded is our apprenticeship program. And we have redesigned that program so that high schoolers, it's a 2-year program, a month each time, but when they graduate from that program, they have all the credentials to be a child care worker, because we know that there is a great need for child care workers. So it's all the certifications, first aid, CPR, mental health first aid, child abuse reporting, mandating, and all of that. So that is us going forward and trying to expand our impact in Story County.
Right. Any questions?
No, a lot of good information. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Basil, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think it's incredibly exciting, the child care program, education program. I'm glad to hear about that. thank you for your presentation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know the great work that you do. Both my kids went to Camp Canwita. My son actually went up to be like a junior counselor,
Oh, wow.
part of it too. So they learned some great skills. And my son's almost 30 now and he drives by and says, gosh, I wish I could still go back to Camp Canwita. He did have some very fond memories. And I'm glad that you've been able to figure out ways to expand and serve those in the community.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
so much. Next, we'll move on. We've got consideration of minutes, the July 9th, 2024 minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
aye.
Hens, aye. Consideration of personnel actions.
I'll move approval of personnel actions.
Second, sorry, I couldn't get the mute off.
That's all right. It's been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
Aye.
Hens, aye. Next, we have consideration of claims.
I'd move approval of claims as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Basil,
Aye.
Merkin,
Aye.
Hens, aye. Consent agenda items. Anyone pulling anything from consent? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
aye.
Hens, aye. We have no public hearing items. Additional items, discussion and consideration of resolution 25-03, the uncommitment of fund balances.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
This is an uncommitment of the funds that were committed back in 16 for conservation. The Conservation Board asked for the 1.6 million that was received from Dakota to be committed to conservation projects. So as they spend those dollars, the board is required to uncommit them so that they can spend them. So this is an uncommitment for FY24's funds. The balance after this, we're uncommitting $55,604. And the balance after this uncommitment is $619,900. So that's the remaining dollars that they have committed to spend for conservation related purposes.
Any questions? Supervisor Basil?
No,
I have no questions.
Hey, is there a motion?
I'd move approval of resolution 2504.
03.
I'm sorry, 03.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Basil,
Aye.
Merkin,
Aye.
Hens, aye. Now we're on to discussion and consideration of resolution 2504.
So after the end of the fiscal year, I always commit do a fund balance resolution. GASB 54 requires that we do that. So what I've put in front of you is the general fund, what is assigned in it. The other funds that are assigned, but not part of the general fund, but they're assigned is inmate commissary fund, the county attorney fine collection fund, and conservation acquisition and capital projects fund. And then the list of restricted funds that only have the use of their restricted resources. And then at the bottom is the committed. So this sets our ending fund balances for FY24.
Any additional questions? If not, is there a motion?
I move approval of resolution number 2504.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
aye.
Hens, aye. Those are approved. Thanks, Lisa. Next, we have discussion and consideration of resolution 25-01, establishing a speed limit on Grant Avenue. Good morning, Darren.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Darren.
We had a request for a pretty straightforward speed limit up just south of Gilbert on Grant Avenue here. So here's Ames and Gilbert, and this is the grant that we paved not that long ago. At that time, we didn't set any speed limits at the north end. We do have one at the south end of 45, but with the expansion here of Gilbert, a new subdivision here, we've had a request to have a gradual slowdown. Gilbert does have a 25 speed limit starting about here going into town, but you could technically be coming at 55 up to that bike crossing right here. So I've just proposed at 45 into a 35 and then use the existing 25 into town. And I've passed that by some city staff and they're in agreement with it. So they will have to match our resolution since they will own half of it on a portion of it here. So once we approve it, I'll send it to the city for their approval and then we can put the signage up. So
it's going from 190th Street north.
it'll start right about here. This is 180th, 190th is down here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
It'll
okay.
start in this general vicinity and work its way up north.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Yeah.
Supervisor
No,
Basil,
thank
did you
you.
have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I would move approval of resolution 2501.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Basil,
Aye.
Merkin,
Aye.
Hens, aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Next, we have discussion and consideration of the Slater Child Care Project additional funding request.
Hi,
Morning.
good morning. So
Would you please just introduce yourself so we have that on record?
yep, I'm Elizabeth Umland
Yeah,
and I own
thank you.
Stepping Stones Childcare in Slater. We've been working for quite a while to expand it. Building new proved to cause quite a few hurdles to get there after the increase in pricing. So we had to look for a new avenue to work for the project and our budget. We found a space to rent within Slater. Not ideal, but it's a good option moving forward for the business and the budget. And so we had state level grant funding that we lost because we're renting and no longer building new. And that was a $75,000 grant that the state had awarded us that we had to pay back because they wouldn't let us use it for a rental property to make tenant improvements. So that left us with a $70,000 gap moving forward in funding. And so we went to the city and asked if they would be interested in proposing a split grant, just like we did with the $100,000 grant previously between the city and the county. And they were in support of it and approved that back in May or beginning of June, another $35,000 grant. Pending we come to Story County to the supervisors and request the remaining $35,000 to bridge that gap. There was a $120,000 gap that I was in charge of gapping or bridging, and I was able to bridge that with a low interest loan through Consumers Energy. That portion of it could be a loan. It didn't have to be cash up front. Consumers Energy approved that loan in the amount of $140,000 to put toward the project. And so this remaining $35,000 is kind of what's hanging in the balance to bridge all of the necessary gaps so that we can get approval at the bank level.
Okay. Questions?
I do have one quick question, Liz. When you say you lost the state grant and then so you had to pay money back, was that money that you spent and you're having to reimburse back or okay?
No,
Okay.
they had given me, so I had signed a purchase agreement for the land where we were going to build. And that was sufficient enough documentation for the state to say, okay, we'll write you a check now you had to spend to receive, and according to this grant agreement. And so I signed the purchase agreement and they wrote me a check for $75,000. And then I just left that sitting in an account until we were ready to close on the purchase of the land. But because that never happened, the grant money was just sitting there. So I just essentially paid them back the money that they gave me. I'd never spent any of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I may have missed it. I read through this very quickly. How big is the building? How many square feet?
There's two buildings. It totals like just over 13,000 square feet of space.
And we talked earlier and I asked what the total was going to be that you were putting in remodeling. You said it was about 900,000?
Just over $960,000.
Say it again.
960,000.
960. Okay. So that's about $74 a square foot.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we've, expanded the amount of square foot we have. Because when we were going to build new, our building was around 9,500 square feet.
Okay.
And we were at over $2 million for that entire build.
Just curious, what is your rent going to be?
$9,020 a month.
9,020
20.
a month.
So I'm sorry, did you have additional question?
Not right now. I might have another one, just a second.
So,
ahead.
this is, you're renting.
Mhm.
So is the landlord putting any funds in towards renovation?
We've requested it a few times and he is in support of the business and believes that it will do well in Slater. He just doesn't want tied to it in any way, shape or form.
Is there like a potential for a rent to own the building?
I haven't discussed that option with him. In my lease, though, I do get the first right of refusal to purchase. So any discussions on selling the property that I would be renting, I am included in that, those discussions and get that first.
And how long's your lease for and what is the potential for renewal?
My initial lease is 10 years and then I can renew for up to 10 years at a 5-year. I think it's a 5-year increment after the initial 10 years.
I snuck up here as well. I'm the mayor, Taylor Christensen in Slater. I've helped kind of on this project as we pivoted after post-COVID construction costs. I think we're in excess of $2.5 million for this project, just for the building. So this was a pivot option. This is the old Absolute building. If you remember Absolute Construction, they were in Slater, on the north side of town, which was historically our lumber yard. That building was purchased by a gentleman and his wife who run a company called I-80 Power. And they purchased that as a potential expansion point. I was able to make contact with Liz and this business owner. He was willing to rent the property instead of move his business to it because he has a shop on his private property outside of Sheldall. He and I have talked a lot about this. A lot of the expense into this building that Liz is having to foot the bill for has to do with a lot of compliance related updates that are not, the building doesn't have. The challenge and the barrier in negotiating and trying to make both sides work is there is no shortage of demand for this property. And so he has multiple tenants that are interested and they're interested in other avenues that would not require the same updates that would be required for the childcare facility. So he's kind of in a position at the moment where he believes in the daycare and has been very patient with the daycare, waiting for this to come together. But he does have alternatives that could be in more of a construction-based office setting that would not require the same updates to the building. So I think because the use is the childcare, that changes the types of updates that have to be done. And the landlord's stance would be, I don't have to make these updates to rent this building. I could go another direction. So it kind of puts Liz in a bind a little bit as to making this fit for the childcare facility, if that makes sense, or gives a little bit more color to the reasoning behind the cost, but also the tenant's improvements and the lack maybe of the landlord's willingness to give a large concession towards that.
And you said you do have an option to renew the lease.
Beyond the 10 years, yes.
Any guarantees on what the rent would be
There's a 2% annual increase
for the first 10 years as well?
for the first 10 years, yes.
Okay, I didn't put that in. Okay.
Does that rent include property taxes?
He pays property taxes.
And he will continue to pay the property taxes.
Mhm.
Utilities?
Those are my responsibility.
Okay.
And it's our understanding at the city at this point that this is the last piece to the puzzle and that as soon as this is done, the loan can be approved and construction can begin as soon as the general contractor can get on the schedule. And I think Liz's goal and the way the city structured this was that it's our expectation that it's serving the community in 2025. And I think that's the goal
Yes.
in the early part of 2025.
Yeah.
I would also add too, just a couple things in Slater. There's our industrial parks gotten off the ground. I know that that's something you haven't heard a lot about, but we have an employer that's going to on the very end of putting a large investment into that industrial park. We also have another large investment that's going to take place in the community that's going to bring some more jobs. So it's going to open up another opportunity for this daycare, which is a good thing. We're in a growth period right now, and this is a service that Slater obviously lacks. And the state, you could say, lacks.
I can see Supervisor Merkin's doing some calculations. I'm going to ask Supervisor Faisal, did you have any additional questions or any follow-up questions?
I don't have any additional questions. I just want to say that I know we all think this is a really important project. I'm not trying to speak for all of us, but in prior conversations. So I'm hoping we can find a way to make it work. I'm sorry about the noise in the airport.
It's not bad. You're okay. Just trying to figure out what your rent is per square foot, and I think I have it, and then I realized I
Well,
missed a
and with
digit.
the two buildings, I should have brought my lease with me, but with the two buildings, in the lease, they're separated out. So there's a dollar amount for what would be the north building, and there's a dollar amount for what would be the south building, but they total the $9,020 a month for both buildings
And
together.
13,000 square feet.
Yeah, the south building, I think, is around 7,300 square feet, give or take, and the north building is 6,000 square feet,
So you'd be renting both buildings?
both buildings.
Yeah, it was set up originally where the Absolute Group had their offices in the front building and in the back. I believe has 4 garage door bays and was a large shop area. I think the cool thing about what Liz has designed or set up is that the school age kids will occupy the back area. Inside of that back area, she'll also be able to include an indoor playground and different activities inside of that building in the back, as well as some classroom space for those school age kids. And then the younger children and the toddler rooms, those can be in the front building, which is kind of set up better that way. And then between the space, it's all a concrete space currently, will be all the playground equipment and all the spots. So, you know, it's going to turn out really nice and it's going to flow really nicely and it's going to bring something to the community. I know Liz has toyed with the idea of potentially making the back space, which is going to have indoor playground and those type of things at some point, make that accessible to the public and in some sort of facet where they can rent or utilize it for different things like that, birthday parties, things like that.
Let me run through this calculation because, I'm sorry, let me run through this calculation because I'm getting an incredibly low square footage cost. Right.
I have been told that it's a really good rental deal.
Well, you've got 9,020 a month.
Mhm.
For 12 months, it's 108,240 for the year. 13, and that's all 13,000 square feet.
Mhm.
I'm getting about $8.32 a square foot.
I can pull up my lease. I have it in here. Like I said, it's two separate there's two separate costs for,
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I'm doing that correctly because that is a very low price.
um, so building 1, which I would assume is, this is the south building, this would be the one that's 7,300 square feet, is 5,520 per month. And the north building is at 3,500 per month.
And your main difference there is obviously your office space, restrooms in the south building. The north building is essentially garage bays and concrete floor as it sits at the moment with some like maintenance shop office space.
And the first building was 7,300 square feet. What was the second building?
6,000.
Yeah, 13,600. Okay. That's a really good, that's an incredibly good rent. So, and he's not putting any money into it, so I can see that, you know.
And we tried to negotiate a high, knowing that I have a favorable rent, knowing I have favorable rent, we tried to negotiate higher rent for some tenant improvement allowance, and there was just no, we had pushed quite a bit, and I was getting to the point where I was nervous that he was gonna walk away and say, I can just rent to somebody else that I don't have to do all of this with, and so I advised that we stop pushing just so that I don't lose the space altogether.
Yeah.
That was my.
Because I know you've been working on this a long time. I can understand that. My biggest concern really is that after 10 years, you're going to have put over $2 million into the building and you have no guarantee on what the purchase price will be, if there will be one.
Right.
That's my biggest concern money-wise on the whole thing.
Mhm.
But that's why I wanted to do the square footage.
To be able to, for him to be ready to sell and to be able to purchase after 10 years. And our goal is to be able to put back as much cash as we can in that first 10 years. And if he's not at a point where he wants to sell, we're at a position where we can then build a new building in Slater and transition those kids out so that I'm not renting anymore. So then that I am owning the building myself would be the goal.
That would be your plan B is
That
to,
would be my plan. That would be my plan B. Do I
Okay.
want to move that many kids? No, but do I want to rent for 20, 30 years? No, I don't.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions if Supervisor Basil does not.
No.
I have a question for Leanne Carter. The question is, what did we fund so far? I didn't have a chance to look it up, and what was the funding source? And maybe Lisa, that would be great.
We funded $50,000 out of unassigned general fund back in 2000, or in FY 23.
So say that again.
50,000 from unassigned general funds in FY 23.
And that's been distributed and utilized.
It's been distributed, but we haven't used it
Okay.
yet.
I would say we
We,
wrote the check.
Yes,
Okay,
I have
that's
the
what I
funds,
got.
it's just-
Okay.
I haven't spent it yet.
okay. So
And-
Lisa,
That's the same match that's the same that the city is as well.
okay. So Lisa, we could do, if we were to do the additional 35, would there be a reason not to do it out of unassigned general fund this time? Okay, thank you. And I would just ask Leanne if she has anything, or Crystal, if either of you have anything you'd like to add. Thank you.
Procedurally, we would just, if the board would act on the request today, we'd send another amendment to Liz for signature, similar to what we do with ARPA funds, and then put down your agenda, future meeting.
Just on consent agenda. So. There's no more questions. Is there a motion?
I would move approval of funding the additional 35,000 from unassigned general funds for this project.
I would second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Basil?
Aye.
Merkin?
Aye.
Hens, aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Next we have is discussion and consideration of resolution 25-05, temporarily waiving permit fees for repair of construction for stored damaged structures.
Good morning again. This item before you is a request from Planning and Development for the board to consider waiving those development review fees related for permits, for zoning permits, for those properties that were damaged on May 21st with the tornado that went through unincorporated areas of Story County. We are still doing an analysis on the number of structures that this may, to which this may apply, but what we intend to do is, if this is approved by the board, send a mailing to all those individuals so that they know the action that occurred. And if they do intend to rebuild, then they have that to plan accordingly. Are there any questions?
I would assume that first thing I thought was loss of revenue, but this is not revenue that's been budgeted
Right.
because these are things that we didn't anticipate happening. So we didn't say we're going to have so many more because the tornado's coming through.
Correct.
So it will mean more work for you, but
Will be.
that's, just in terms of a mailing, I've been talking with Melissa and there's the new funding for housing, temporary housing that the governor just announced. We may be sending out a mailing to people about that. The supervisors, we might be able to do a joint mail.
That would be
mailing.
good.
Yeah, so we can save some postage on that. We could put those two together.
Okay. No, I would appreciate that. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And not into individuals with several pieces of mailing as well.
We would only be sending out to the 15 or so homes
Right.
that FEMA said were totally destroyed. So I don't know if you'd have.
We'll have probably a few more, but we can handle that on our end.
Okay. Okay, super.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Any questions, Supervisor Basil?
No,
Okay,
none.
I don't
I
have
think-
any
I
questions
think it's a
either.
good idea.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you.
I would move approval of resolution 2505.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Merkin?
Aye.
Basil?
Aye.
Hens, aye. They are approved. Okay, moving on, we've got departmental reports. We've got the engineer quarterly report.
Okay. We start out on the maintenance work side of things. We had a really good spring thaw and good spring weather that allow us to get a lot of maintenance work done. Just a quick couple pictures. This is a driveway culvert that over by E29 in Dayton that we discovered last year that was rusted out and collapsing. We got a liner put in last fall under the driveway, which is pretty deep, but this portion we had to do with our own crews. We did have to rent a tracked excavator. You can see at the top, because this is all off-road work. Our excavators have tires. We can't get them very far off the road. So we were able to get that. There's a 200-foot long culvert that we didn't even know was really there. It was off the road. So we did get that fixed and replaced. So that was a good project to get done. Next slide. Our longest bridge that we own in Story County is a 400-foot long bridge here on Lincoln Highway, east of Nevada. We had a lot of deck patching that needed to be done. So we got that completed. Then we had the May flooding and tornado at the same time. Few flooding pictures first. This is down mainly the southwest portion of the counties where we had most of the damage. We do have a brand new box culvert in the middle of that you can't see, but it's probably good we had the box instead of the old wood bridge because we probably would have had some considerable damage where we didn't have too much damage with the box culvert. Keep going. more flood pictures, a lot of corn stalks again. If we have spring flooding anymore with the farming practices we have now, we just get corn stalks blocking about all of our culverts in the area. This was a new box culvert we put in last year. It had some riprap and it washed it down into the private property. So we had to retrieve a bunch of the riprap back out of that stream. More corn stalk pictures, just plugging our culverts. So a lot of them we have to get to right away, but some we can kind of put off till we can get to the area. It depends how much blockage of the culverts there are. Gravel washed out, number of places caused by water going over the road. Next slide. And some had a handful of pipes. The water jumps the road and washes out the downstream foreslope on these pipes. So we have to bring in new dirt, fill those back up. This is south of Maxwell on S27. So many corn stalks, they were getting caught on the bridge and starting to affect the flooding back upstream. So we had to get an excavator in here and grab the corn stalks and throw them on the other side of the bridge, and they washed downstream. But that's all we could really do at the time to get this opened up. Just more pictures. The flooding jumped the pavement here and on all sides of the gravel road next to it. More gravel road damage. Then we had the tornado come through that evening. This is a picture of a motor grader on 270th. Had to actually get the V plows out on the front to push debris off the roadways to get them open. I think that's the first time we've ever had to do that. Just more pictures of the trees down. This is 270th. Then, you know, Joe Quaker's house. Couldn't see much of that house before because it had so many trees around it, but it's pretty much wiped out all the trees and all the debris. That's the neighbor's house in his front yard. Just a picture of a lot of power lines down, and you could not see this power line. It was about eye level driving down the road. Even me sitting here, I'd had cars coming the other direction and slam on their brakes because you could not see somebody's power lines right across the roadway. So we had people sitting out blocking those till we could get them pulled off the road. More tree damage. Same area along the railroad crossing. This is down by Cambridge, probably our most extensive tree damaged road. It seemed like it was a mile wide, the tornado through this area. It took a lot of trees down. Same road there. We do have all that cleaned up. This is just a historic photo I took with the old locomotive going over that bridge. And you can see all the trees around it, and you can see how that next slide is what it looks like today. Trees are wiped out through that area. Just more damage, some power lines. You can see we're down in a lot of areas. Some of the debris that were in the road right away. So then these areas we had to help clean up the road right away areas where it got pushed into the roadways. Same thing there. And a lot of barns and corn cribs pushed into the roadways as well. Number of signs damaged. You can see debris caught the posts, which tore them down. Probably 40 to 50 signs we had to replace. Again, more signs. That's it for the damage pictures. We have estimated somewhere around 150,000 in damage that we're submitting to FEMA. We have not had our initial meeting with them, so you never quite know what they're going to cover until you meet with them. But that's what we hope to get back from FEMA on the work we've done to clean up.
Before you go further, I just want to commend you and your staff because I was out pretty soon afterwards and I was able to get through all the roads except the ones where they had the power lines down and we're working on them. You folks got out there just really quickly and I know everybody appreciated it.
Thank you. Last, I just want to show you.
Also,
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one question about the flooding. So how much time do you think your team spends dealing with the corn stalks? And is there an option to make that better? in some way other than changing farming practices?
Yeah, I know of no way to make that better. It's just if you get the spring flooding before you get all the crops in place to stop the corn stalks from moving. But no, I don't know of a way to stop that. And fortunately, FEMA doesn't pay much to clean those up, so we almost don't even submit those for reimbursement because we kind of do them as we can get to the areas throughout the year. So no, I don't know any good solutions for that.
They're a huge market for Stover that would help, but it's not going to be that big to take all those corn stalks.
Yeah.
But when you see a field that, you know, they've taken the Stover off, it looks a lot different than.
Yeah, and there's really nowhere to take them either is the problem. So that our new debris site at Milford, which should be a good site that we can actually take them to in the future. This is all far southwest, so I think they found a couple farmers that would take them, but yeah, it's hard to get rid of them too. So,
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
yep. Just a picture Cat took for us with a drone of our new motor graders sitting in the yard. So we do have those all in use now. They did come with all new wings, the snow equipment. We went a round or two without getting new snow equipment, but we had some issues with the backs. They get a lot of force put on the backside, so they're bending the back. So with this round, we had to get new snow wings. The big V plows, we're reusing those. Those will last us forever, so we don't have to get those new. But these did cost us a little bit more because of the new snow equipment this round, but they're working well for us so far. Moving on to construction. We got 7 projects this year. The first one, S14 overlay south of Nevada, the 9-mile project that just wrapped up last week. So that is completed other than the white edge line, but we usually wait a week or two before we paint that to get the dirt from the shoulder rock cleaned off. S27 overlay, that's still yet to come this year. Hillcrest overlay up by Story City, that was completed a month or so ago. A few box culverts have not started on Richland 8 yet, but Palestine 15 is picture here, that slab bridge. Unfortunately, this one's taking longer than any bridge we've ever done. They started this pretty much January 1st and it's not completed yet. The good news, the people who live on the road don't mind. They don't get traffic. So they're fine with it. We started it, we give them free winter work time in the winter, so we don't count working days. That helped our cost. But unfortunately, this contractor kind of took advantage of that and it's kind of sitting, so it's still not done. The bridge is completely done. This was the day we poured the deck. We're just waiting for they have a sub that comes in wraps up the dirt work around it. But so hopefully they'll get done. The other thing that delayed this is this contractor's from Cherokee and their shop got completely flooded out back in Cherokee with the flooding. So that took them off this project for a couple of weeks to deal with that back home. So, but hopefully this will get opened up the next month or so. And then the Collins 3 box culvert is nearly completed. There's just a picture of the precast box going in, and this is the old metal structure that was completely rusted out in the bottom. So that one is pretty much done. They're just done some cleanup work. Construction project design. We're nearing completion on the final plans with the Maxwell Bridge replacement. That's going to replace 2 bridges in the same location. That construction should take place in 2025. We're also working on 2 larger bridge designs, the 150th Street Skunk River Bridge and the 220th Street Nevada 2 Bridge. They're both truss bridges, so we had to get them reviewed for historic purposes. And the good news is neither one was found to be historic. So now we can move forward with, we were kind of designing them both at the same time in case one was a historic and one wasn't, we could at least move forward with one. So now that they're both not, we're going to move forward with the 150th Skunk Bridge next year and kind of push back the 220th until 2026.
150th, that's the one that you've not even been able to do snow removal on.
Yeah, we have to send a special truck
On-
up with a plow on it because it's a lighter truck because it's load limited for our normal plows and motor graders.
Yeah.
The federal transportation bill, the biggest thing we have going on is the SS4A grant that we got. We have this is kind of the milestone checklist. We're down to the September workshop. We have one scheduled for September 30th that you should have gotten an email on. So after that workshop, they will be able to complete the report and hopefully have that done by February of 2025. And once we have a safety action plan completed, then you can start applying for actual projects that are identified in that plan.
Mhm.
So that'll be future goal. The House File 718 implications for secondary roads. No real change on that, but we are working as an association to maybe get some laws changed. Right now, if we can't meet the 75%, we lose our farm to market fund. That's the biggest concern with it, 'cause that's $1.5 million per year. They freeze it. But then if you bank up too much money in that, the state will take that money away. So not only will it be frozen, but they will take money away in the future. So we're trying to get that rule relaxed or changed. This is just something we're gonna have to work through our budget session because we are historically close to 75%. And so what they pretty much are saying is we want you to levy more for roads, but yet we're not gonna allow you to. So it's catch-22. So what do? We're stuck. The good news is it doesn't affect this so much, but for the fiscal year that just completed FY24, we estimated $4.7 million in road use tax coming in. We actually got 5.1, so it's about 400,000 more than what we budgeted for. So that's going to help our carryover balance at least, but it won't fix this problem at all on the House File situation. Moving on to some DOT construction projects, have a lot going on again that impacts county roads as well. The E63 bridge over I-35 is ongoing. The bridge has been removed and so E63 has been closed and will be for most this year. And once they get that bridge replaced, they're gonna hop down to the 210, Highway 210 bridge and start that one and close Highway 210. The 5/8 interchange continues. The next slide is a picture of that. This year was the paving. So this has been paved. This has been paved. They're working on this intersection right now to get that paved and open. That's getting real close to being open. They got this intersection rebuilt with new pavement, so that is back open. This has been delayed due to that water line issue for the city of Nevada, so that has not been paved yet. And then existing R70s right here in these two crossings, they're gonna have to do grading and paving through that area. So when those two happen, R70 will be closed for quite a long period of time heading northbound. So there's no good detour for that. So that's gonna push a lot of cars on the gravel roads south 30 here when that does take place. But I suppose the other thing I need to point out, just beware the board when this all does get opened up, the DOT does plan to close access off of 590 to these businesses, so that they're not real happy about that. And the board has opposed that, but the DOT is moving forward with it anyway. So you'll probably hear something again about that when the DOT does close these access points. The last one is the Highway 69 project, just started last week right here. Tried to work with the DOT ahead of time to get dust control down. People coming up 69. The DOT assumed everybody would go west on this pavement and then maybe take gravel here or here. So they did put dust control in front of homes here and here, but they did not go east. I warn them every time it's going to happen, just get it down, but they tend to like to wait and get everybody upset first. So that did happen. I'm sure you took some calls as well. We heard from about everybody that lived on this road. So this morning, they did shoot this dust control and they even expanded it down to 290th and over to 560th even. So they went even further with their dust control. There's just, again, no good detour from Huxley to Ames. So people, they're going to take the shortest route, a good percentage anyway. So it's getting a lot of extra traffic and this is going to be in place for at least 3 months. So
And I was glad, excuse me, I was glad to see that the DOT put the dust control down.
yeah, I warn them every time, but they just want to do the minimum and see if they get complaints. And but I can usually tell when they're going to need it, when they're not, but
Sure.
it's their call. Moving on to, this is an important topic, the Ames City sewers. They're expanding in 2 places into the county, which is kind of a rare thing to expand services outside of the city limits. The first one is over Boone County line, Highway 30, this, the old drive-in theater, Lincoln Way. The green line is our drainage district 4. This is the proposed line the city wants to put in. They're actually proposing to annex into Boone County, which will be the first time I think that's going to happen. So development here. For the most part, it's just a road crossing, so it's not that big a deal from my perspective. For roads, it is going to impact drainage district. This is a brand new portion of the tile that was replaced maybe 10 years ago, I think it was. I think they're going to propose the district reroute some stuff. We don't know the details of that yet. Boone County is the controlling district on this one, so we'll probably have Boone County set up a meeting or something for that. But so there'll be more to
Pay for
come.
the rerouting?
What's that?
Would the city pay for the rerouting?
They would have to
You
if,
have to, landowners can't pay for that.
if the DOT or if the district accepts their proposal to what they want to do. This is also, I should point out, Mortensen Road is down here. The city is proposing on paving it up to our gravel road now, and the cities will annex this portion, but they do not want to annex. This is apartment complex in Boone County, and this is the storage facility. They don't want to annex those two for some reason. So when they push this up to pave, they're going to leave this little stretch for the county to pave, which unfortunately includes a bridge right here. So that's yet to come as well. Did you have a question about something else?
I did, and it just escaped
Oh,
me.
sorry.
Okay, it's all right.
The second one's a little more complex, and I do have Scott Cruz with WHKS representing the city of Ames is here as well in case we have questions for him. This is southwest of Ames. Ken Merrill Road is here, 550th and 265th. This light blue line is where they are proposing to put sewer in. The first I had heard of this was I was getting calls from consultants that were bidding on the project asking me what the city was going to allow or the county will allow. And I was like, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what you're talking about. So I reached out to the city and they said, don't worry about it. It's just preliminary. We'll have to talk more later. Then WHKS did get the bid for the project design. So then I started working with WHKS on what the proposal was. Originally it was going to go down 265th to this. The city has existing sewer right here. So they were going to go down 265th to connect in. WHKS came up with a better idea to go up and across 550th and then Ken Merrill, which is a level B road, and connect in here, which will have a lot less disturbance on our roads. So I do like that proposal. But when the city puts storm sewer in, what they typically do is put it right down the center of the road because they got to serve both sides with that sewer. So the proposal is to put it right down the center of the road, which would be 10 to 20 feet, maybe even a little bit more in spots deep. So you're pretty much going to tear out the entire gravel road to do this. There's a few questions there. We'll do it under our utility permit process. So the board will have to approve that as a utility going in. So they do have a right to use the road for utilities. One question is there's a lot of utilities in the road already, probably water and fiber out there. Whether they have to move at their cost or not, well, that's something we have to work out yet because they have to move if we do a road project, but this really isn't a road project. It's another utility project. So that's one thing to work through. The other thing is the city will have a line out in the county. So we're going to have manholes in a gravel road. They're going to bury them a little bit. So it'll probably be fine, but that'll be a little bit of an unusual situation until they annex it and pave these roads. So we'll have to come up with some sort of a maintenance agreement. If something goes wrong with any of those lines or
Darren.
manholes, they're going to have to fix it. Yes.
Do you know what the timeline is for when they plan to annex?
They don't know when they're going to annex. The hurry on this is that they've have some federal money they have to spend and the project has to be let yet this calendar year.
Mhm.
So WHQS is kind of in a hurry to get this designed and let to meet that
Sure.
guideline. But beyond that, there is no plan in place. I was wanting the city to come and at least talk to the board about this, but they were all busy today, but we had a meeting last week in preparation for this meeting today. The one good thing is they did send a letter out to the landowners. Excuse me. That kind of gave them a warning of this, which was nice. I didn't know they did that. That was back in February. They did not receive any feedback from that, but and my other big concern is we have about 6 homes on this mile. Just getting them access during construction is going to be a real challenge. So we're going to have to make sure we have some good agreement in place to do that because it's going to be a city project. So I won't have a lot of control over the construction, but yet I got to make sure homeowners have access.
So would this be, I guess my question would be, would there need to be like a road closure or a single lane? Would this end up being like a similar circumstance to Nevada where, would they have to close it the whole time so you don't have people coming at night and potentially
Yeah.
going off the road?
It's somewhat similar to that, but there's going to be no way to build this with one lane. They'll have to close it down, which isn't as big of a deal on a gravel road. 265th is a little bigger deal because that's a major through route with the bridge over the interstate. There's a long detour to the south.
So that other road would have to be closed the entire time.
It's definitely going to have to be closed. I'm concerned about even getting residents out. It'll be such a deep excavation. And so the closure, they'll have to kind of phase it so they can get residents out one direction the whole time. And there is kind of 2 phases. The first phase is 550th. This is the second phase. So I was hoping to avoid 265th as much as possible, but the latest proposal has a little 300 or 400 foot stub this direction, unfortunately. So I was hoping they could get this done and then traffic could use that to get to town while that was closed. But with this little stubs closed, there's no other option but a long detour.
And why did you say it was better to go the route that's proposed versus on 265th?
Again, there's a lot of houses on this stretch. It's kind of behind this profile here, but a lot of houses. And so 265th would be disturbed for a lot longer period. And there were some really deep cuts. I think it got down to 30 feet or something through the hills there. So yeah, going up here, that's really flat up here. There's one little hill right here and a brand new box culvert we just put in. We're seeing if we can't go maybe around that box and maybe even across private property to avoid a really deep cut.
And the city limit
Here.
now, the south is Ken Merrill Road.
Yeah, they own, they've annexed that portion, so
That's
that
annexed.
portion would be county, yeah.
But everything else to the west there, south of Ken Merrill is all in the county.
Yeah.
There's no development. Okay.
Go to the next slide. This is just kind of their growth plan. And so this would be 550th here and then 265th. So the yellow's the residential that they're gonna try to serve with this new line. I'm not sure what core means. Maybe Leanne might know. Do you know what that? Okay. But this is what they're trying to serve, and the reason this is happening the way it is because of the federal grant, trying to get it out there quickly and spent.
Is it ARPA money? So we need to have it done by 20,
Knocking, yes.
yeah.
Yep. So I wanted to get this board in front of the board as soon as possible. Again, WHKS has to start the design. If there's some big roadblock, we want to know now so they don't get too far along spending money on the design. But I think it's doable. Like I say, my biggest concern is homeowner access during construction. They're going to pretty much obliterate the roadway. We'll probably end up with a better roadway in the end because they're going to have to re-rock it 6 inches thick and rebuild the slopes and everything. So it'll just be, a hassle during construction, but it can be done. So for now, we'll continue to work with WHKS on design and how we're going to get access to people. But if you have any other concerns, we can talk about them up till then. But at this point, I think it's doable. It's just, we're gonna have to have a lot of agreements in place.
There are locations that have had gravel with manholes.
Not that I can think of.
Can think
no.
of, I mean, that would just be one concern and what if they pop up and what happens to your equipment?
Yeah. We'll bury them deep enough where hopefully that will never happen. You want to?
Please come forward.
Scott.
Yeah. You just state your name as well. We have it for the record.
And we do have like 4 box culverts and 4 more pipe crossings. So if they're going down the center of the road, they're gonna have to replace all those. That'll have to be part of our agreement too.
Yeah, and in the,
Could you
Re-
say your name? I'm sorry.
oh, Scott Cruz with WHKS.
Thank you.
We plan to keep the manholes lid at least 12 inches or more, whatever Darren asked us to do at this time, so that that doesn't happen. So that we don't want them to be hit, and that's between Darren and I'll work that out and make sure that doesn't happen.
So what kind of a plan would you have for the residents to have access?
So.
What are your thoughts there?
So on 550th, I think that's the first phase of the project. I see it going that we would do portions of the installation and then get that road ready. So there'll be kind of 2 crews, one putting pipe in and one reclaiming as they go, so that as we get to a house, they'll be able to get out. Will it be perfect? No, not that first day, but we'll slowly work that into the
Mhm.
plan. And then the city talked a little bit about having a 4-year maintenance bond with the contractor. And so we'll have a 4-year time period to, come back on the contractor for any road issues that come up. And then after that, the city would have to take care of those situations. But I think that after 4 years, I think it would probably be fairly well established, and I think we'd be okay at that point.
As part of their contract, they do have one public meeting requirement. So I would assume after you get plans a little more detailed, they will hold a public meeting, and hopefully we can cover that with the landowners at that time of how access is going to work and all of that.
Correct. So all the phasing would be part of the project in the plan, so everybody would know ahead of time what we expect the contractors to do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But just food for thought now. Just let me know if you think of any major concerns, and we'll just have to work through this.
Okay.
Thanks
Thanks
for coming,
for that.
Scott.
Yep. You have any more questions? So, all right.
you.
Thank you.
Next item was utility permits. Just a general comment. We're seeing a lot of fiber and installation permits come in like 70 miles each and stuff like that, which is a good thing. We're getting more fiber out in the rural areas, but with all the tile we have in Story County, that can create problems with installation. This is right back to that same road, Boone County line, just south of Lincoln Way. They did hit that major DD4 tile line under the road, so that's 10, 12 foot deep, huge hole underneath. So the Boone County Sheriff was out there blocking it until we could get out there, get the repair started. But a situation where we had it permitted to be installed further over here and they went off alignment. They knew that tile was there. I even caught them during installation and warned them, do not hit that tile. So I was even on site and they still hit the tile. There's only so much you can do. But this stuff, probably see a little more potential of this happening with the number of miles going in of fiber, especially right now. 510th Avenue paving request. We had a request. This is the stretch right here. West 190th is just off the picture. The winery is right here and it bends to the north. Right now, the pavement, it's underneath this stuff. I don't know if there's a way to get that off. Oh, thank you. The pavement ends right here. This is a paved private subdivision, but our pavement ends here. The request is to pave it up to about right here. We cannot pave through these curves. It would just create a dangerous situation and it really doesn't lead to anywhere. So we would just cut it off here. It's been in our wish list for many years because these two homes have been here quite a while. Fairly expensive homes as well. But recently we had two more built. They're all in the $1 to $2 million assessment range. And then a proposal we've just seen about a sports facility going in here. So that's all gonna put more pressure on to pave this stretch of road. Typically, I would say to pave something, we would have to bring it up to current paving standard. Excuse me. But unfortunately, this all wasn't brought up. That's already paved, so it's not going to really hurt that much to add a little bit. But I will bring some cost proposals to our budget session here this fall and talk about maybe getting this added in.
So Darren and I
Yep.
went out there and
Okay.
talked with the gentleman who did the request. And I think past his house, it's still a little bit straight and then it curves west a little bit.
This up here?
Oh yeah, I guess I'm looking the wrong way.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna go to the end so that you're not hitting the curve where that goes straight.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Mhm.
And I don't know if there's potential for more homes even in these lots or not. I think this was a like old town lots, so these are some lots that were established a long time ago. So there might be even potential for more homes in the area.
Mhm. There's about 4 homes when you go to the west.
Right.
Past that curve.
Right.
At
And then
least. Mhm.
And I told the board we had been experimenting with some asphalt millings and stuff to try to bring the dust down a little bit, and that's been mixed results. And those millings can cause more and more intense washboarding. So homeowners aren't a big fan of that experiment. So we'll talk about trying something else here in the future.
And then some sort of sports facility, you said maybe going out there too?
Yeah, it's this lot, maybe even the one next to it. Sounds like just like a neighborhood type of sports facility or something with outside courts of some sort, but just touch on Prairie Valley subdivisions. That second phase is nearing completion, so I'm working with P&D to get the final approvals on the road construction work out there right now. Kind of tied to that is the drainage district work, Bolton and Mink. It's working on getting the Boone Story 8 tile boring project under E23 up there, and that's kind of delaying phase 2 Prairie Valley turn lane that they were required. But
And is developer paying for that?
correct. I was comfortable with just pushing it off till phase 3,
Mhm.
just so we can get that tile board under there, because they're in conflict. The two projects are in conflict with each other. So if we can get the tile fixed first, and then they can put that turn lane in during phase 3 of the development. And the wetland project is already under construction out there, and that's moving along.
You're gonna change the, you're not gonna stop before we stop there then?
At this point, that's not planned. I don't think that's warranted at this point with the traffic counts, but we'll have to see what happens after the
just
subdivision goes in. Yep. Lastly, job openings. We were able to fill 2 maintenance positions recently. Trevor Kokenauer and Donald Robinson both started on July 8th. And then we currently have an administrative assistant position open, but we're starting interviews actually this afternoon. I think we set the record for applicants on that. I think we had 66 applicants for that position, so should be able to get somebody good out of that pool. That's all I have. Any questions?
Don't have any additional. Supervisor Faisal, do you have any questions?
Not at this moment, just good job. I'm always impressed and floored by all the work that you and your team do. So appreciative.
Thank you.
Darren, have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Darren.
Next, we have Planning and Development Quarterly Report.
My watch told me to stand. I should have gotten up. It has been a pretty busy quarter, second quarter for planning and development. This slide shows where we are in comparison for previous years for the second quarter of the calendar year. Kind of ramping up a little bit from 2021. We had a lull going down for a couple of years. These are those permits that have been totally scheduled, submitted and gone through and finalized. So 24 other types of permits, that's everything from pole buildings and detached garages to fencing. 9 single-family dwellings, and then with the second phase, the Prairie Valley coming in, we can expect to see this number continue to rise. Average value is around just under $330,000 for single-family dwelling in unincorporated Story County. And on the bottom of the slide, there are the comparisons over previous years. Last year, in that same quarter, it was about $100,000 more. A lot of that was the Prairie Valley construction that was underway. So I think next quarter or even a year from now, we'll see that number even going higher. Next slide, please. And then these are those other permits that we've been dealing with. These are our subdivisions, all that down through the bottom to our 911 permits. Again, our activity is increasing over past years. We have had a very busy second quarter. Majority of those floodplain development permits, the non-structural, are Alliant Energy or Heart of Iowa Nature Trail for the trail improvements going in for the paving. We have had a number of conditional use permits this year. However, like last week at the Board of Adjustment, we actually had 3 permits and then findings of fact. Thank you. This is a spatial location of where our permit activity is occurring through the past quarter. Again, not really concentrated in one particular area other than maybe a little bit more in the north of Ames, between Ames and Gilbert, but all parts of Story County are equally being visited by our department at all times of the day. If you want to go to the next one. But I do want to spend some time on this one. So these are those development review cases that have been completed. They've gone through the process. They've were submitted, reviewed by whether internally or Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment. This might not be what you're saying. We were able to get Citizen Serve to run this report for us after the time we had this put on the agenda. So it's good information we wanted to share before the next quarterly report. What you're seeing is we've had a lot of activity in that conditional use permit world, and a lot of, you'll have Prairie Valley come here shortly for final plat, but you've seen a lot of ag plats and residential subdivisions, in particular in the second quarter. Again, Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning Commission has been meeting pretty regularly. This is what this slide is. We do have Board of Adjustment tomorrow night as well for our July meeting. We did have Planning and Zoning Commission as well last week. And then the next one, and the catch-all slide of everything else we've been doing. As you know, our office does Platts survey. We've processed 31 of those through the routing and the filing out this past quarter. Done 39 inspections, which is a lot of time for our staff to go out and do whatever that inspection with, if it's a residential preliminary for a zoning permit, or if it's a floodplain inspection, or if it's related to code enforcement. Housing action plan, we continue to meet. I was invited with Supervisor Heddens inviting me to attend the Communities of Excellence. And I did go yesterday as well to the
Full committee.
full committee on what Story County has been doing with housing, and presented our housing action plan, or our housing assessment. We've been having conversations on transferring from Citizen Serve to geo permits for our online permitting software. And so you'll be seeing a request from us probably next month or so to start looking at budgeting for that and transferring it. It's a better product for us. Citizen Serve is great to work with, but for the public and for our department and others, it's some better options. We've been spending some time at the debris management site. We staffed it initially, and then we actually did go out and do damage assessments prior to that, following the tornado. We're working to get the final numbers, working with Joby on that. We are in the midst of looking at the urban renewal area applications that were submitted. The notices to the consultation meeting will go out this week. That is in early September. Office reorganization continues. We still have a piece of glass that needs replaced, but we're almost there, which is good. That means we'll start looking at interns sometime this fall too, that we have additional space now. I do want to thank you for approving the truck request. I think that will be very handy and help us. I mean, I've even gone out and put a sign up now. It's easy to just throw the big, large sign in the back. I take the truck down today to get the improvements done. Hopefully we'll get that back in a couple days. And thank you for approving Creative Cloud as well today. We'll get that purchased. We did put a poster up on the House file regarding our stormwater regulations and what we cannot do as of July 1st. And then when we get to cleanup ordinance later this fall, we'll take those regulations out. The mail said, or the presentation said tractor ride mailing. It should be tractor ride mailing. I don't know what ride, maybe Ryle is another way of saying it, but we did send out notices to all those properties along the WHO Great Iowa Tractor Ride, notifying them of the route. We did also comment to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources on some floodplain management rules. Have not heard back, but with the governor's reorganization of various sections of county government, the DNR looked at the floodplain management rules and tried to maybe simplify them a little bit in approach. And then just a couple other things to note. I am forwarding to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Adjustment that email update that are an email update from IPIB about public meetings and using Zoom and or virtual options, so that they're aware of that too. Because we in the past did not necessarily have Planning and Zoning Commission or Board of Adjustments once we kind of came out of COVID, participating virtually, but that does now allow them to do that, which will help us, especially when we get to winter time with maintaining quorums. I do want to just acknowledge the work and commitment of staff down in planning and development. It has, when we're putting this together, a lot of things came back, like, oh yeah, we dealt with that. It has been, as I mentioned a couple times, very busy, but without their work ethic and dedication, none of this is possible. And they're pretty outstanding team down there. Do you have questions for me?
I don't have any questions. I thank you and the whole planning and development team for all the work that they've done. I know they've been very responsive whenever I've had someone contact me and I come down to their office and just explaining to me, you know, why something's a particular issue or why we need to go a particular way or not.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
here. I wholeheartedly agree with Supervisor Evans. Can't say enough good things about your department, your whole team.
And I would say in particular during the flooding and the tornado, doing the damage assessments, doing the work with the debris site and all the other work that your department did. And I was just remembering when I came in Wednesday and I heard you had already met with Joby and you were saying, we better get that debris site going. You know, you had that up within a week, I think. Something like that. And just all the work that you did, you and your staff did very, very quickly was appreciated.
Thanks, Leanne. Next, we'll move on to the FY24 quarterly financial report. Still morning, so good morning, Lisa.
It
again.
is still morning and we're gonna make the Shell's wishes here, I think. So in front of you, we've ended the fiscal year and I'll follow up on Leanne's comments and say thanks to my staff for putting up with me at end of fiscal year because it gets kind of hairy sometimes. So for the year, it looks really good. We ended really well. Our general fund has a 51% ending fund balance unassigned. We budgeted at 32%, so way better. The ARPA funds, there's 10.2 million, and we'll talk about that in a minute when I go through the ARPA the final report for ARPA. The annual report for ARPA. We have a 40% supplemental ending fund balance. We budgeted that at 26%. We have a 20% rural fund balance. No, excuse me. Yeah, 19.5, and we budgeted at 20. Secondary roads had a 44% ending fund balance, and we budgeted at 24. So the fund balances were strong going into the year. And as you can see, above for by department expenditures, overall 86% of the budget was spent. So that's where the extra funds are coming from, is the not spent. For revenues, we had 9 departments that were over 100% on revenues. No, besides interest on investments, no real large, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was coming type of dollars, but interest on investments was way higher. I have updated all of your budget books. I snuck into your offices last week one time and got all your, or last week, and got all your budget books with FY24 final numbers in them. Okay.
You found mine?
I did. It was kind of, I found it.
I was gonna label where I hid them, but I thought, oh, let's see if Lisa can find them.
I didn't have to look too hard. I figured it out. So,
Close to where they used
Hide
to
and
be.
seek.
right, a little hide and seek. So that's the end of the year FY24 and quarterly financial report for you.
Good.
So.
Yeah, as you can see, we budgeted with amendment $69 million to spend, and we spent 59 million. So. Yes, were you going to say something?
I was, but never mind.
Okay. All right, so I also am presenting year-end FY 24 ARPA report. This is the report that's on the S drive. Okay, so it's accessible at any point in time for you, and I keep it updated to the best of my abilities. As you can see, it just shows at the top what we received, what we have spent, and what we have unassigned yet for the overview. I've got the actual numbers that we've spent for 22, 23, and 24 in there. The 25 numbers are mainly what I'm going to amend into the 25 budget for projects that haven't finished yet. Okay. It's not what's budgeted at this point because we had amounts that weren't used that we need to move. So for internal projects, the second page, we have for FY 25, we have digitalization of board minutes. We have about 335,000 left on the Hickory Grove Sewer project. Edge of Field, 39,000. Permanent barriers, I need to double check with Joby, but I think there's about 24,100 left on that one to pay for. Since a lot of departments don't have glass yet, that's understandable. I lowered the administration to 100,000 for this year's budget. As you can see, we've only spent between 43 and $57,000 the last 2 years. In that administration, I also did get a quote. No, I did get an exact amount of what the single audit costs were for our annual audit last year. So that is coming out of ARPA funds because that's the whole single audit is ARPA funds. So, so overall, we for internal projects in FY 24, we spent 1.2 million. The next page is the external projects. Leanne and Crystal, I think, had presented and told you where they thought things would fall and where they would get spent. And I found that it makes a lot more sense financially for me to just put them in FY 25. I can move them to 26, but if they're in 25 and they get spent on when we're not planning on it, at least the money's there to do it. So that's my thought process on that. So for FY 24, we spent 2.2427 on external projects. And for FY 25, we're going to have about 5.4 more to spend. I have not moved Home Allies. I was going to double check and see what the status was of that one, whether I want to move that. I think it's in FY 25 at this point in time. So I need to probably put that or leave that in 25 at this point.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's Leanne's nodding.
Is she Leanne nodding? Okay.
So
Well,
so that would go to 25.
also note that it is in 25. I'm sure it is.
Oh,
And I
okay.
don't know when I put it in 26, but I put it in 26 at some point.
Okay.
Okay, so the last one is what we've spent on revenue loss. What projects and or amounts you have said, let's use revenue loss on those. For FY 24, we did the indoor pool in Ames. We did the history museum. We did 250 of Heart of Iowa Nature Trail. That's a big one, you know, it was 3 million budgeted. So we're moving 2.7 out into next year for that. City Innovative got their 100,000. The generator and admin generator, I think the total on that is 575 or something like that. I'm gonna double check with Joby on that too. We have Colo childcare in next year. We have Child Serve Reno in next year. We put the cat room exhaust for animal control in next year. The housing plan is in revenue loss. Broadband is in revenue loss. And there's a first payment on the HSC HVAC, or there's like a 3 year, isn't there 100,000 a year that Joby was talking about? So we went ahead and put 25s in revenue loss. And then for FY 26, the only commitment that we have for revenue loss is the housing action plan. So overall, there's 155,000, 155,76 that you have not assigned for anything.
Is that revenue loss?
Yeah.
Money? Okay.
Yeah, we have up to 10 million in revenue loss.
Right, right.
And, we haven't spent that yet. We've only spent,
And this one we still have to assign by the end of this calendar year. for
if you're
revenue?
using it for revenue loss or administration, if you say it's revenue loss, we're fine. We don't have to put a project to it, is my understanding.
Okay,
It's revenue loss.
loss.
Do we need to take some action to call that revenue loss?
You called you already made the action.
already
saying
did that.
Take up to $10 million in
Okay,
revenue.
so we're okay, so we don't, so the only thing we're gonna have to look at is if we get some money sent back to us by some agency that can't use it, we need to reallocate that money by December.
Right,
But
right,
this 155, we don't have to worry about.
correct.
We just need
And,
to figure out how.
No,
to-
in all fairness, well, I'm glad they took the administration out of the window too, because, we're keeping track of administration as a line, right?
Mhm.
But, I put 100,000 in next year. Will we spend that? There's gonna be more dollars that are gonna dump in, that are probably gonna end up in the unassigned funds because we're not gonna use all of the administration dollars, I don't think. But I want to have it there in case.
Sure.
If, I think I've asked this question many times, but I'm going to ask it again, just to make sure. If an agency tells us they cannot use the money, they give it back to us, can we call that revenue loss? Can we make that revenue loss?
Yes, you have up to 10 million in revenue loss. So yes, you can do that.
Okay,
But didn't we already, how much of revenue loss have we utilized so far?
not that much. It's on the last page. 4, 5, 6 million. Ish.
I do have a question about that too. Do we need to take action to formally unobligate?
If a agency isn't going to use all the dollars,
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would
and
be
I
a
would assume that-
contract amendment.
Because you have a contract with them saying they're going to use this amount of money. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not a
Okay.
give back, it's we're not gonna use it.
All
so it
right.
just Stays in the
Right.
funds, Linda, it's not a give back, we haven't given them the money.
Okay.
We
They,
just
Yeah.
they draw it
said
down.
we're going, yeah, they draw it down.
So we're just under 6 million right now on,
So-
Uh-huh,
on revenue loss.
uh-huh.
Okay.
5,930, I think. So we would have
Good.
4 million more that we could,
Well, no, because you don't have that much left to spend, but you only have 155. you have to put
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
now.
but if some comes back,
Yes,
we're,
I think what you meant is we still have up to 4 million
yes.
that could be coined as revenue loss if.
yes,
entities
exactly.
come in.
Thank you. So we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry too much about finding a use for it, declaring a use for it by the end of this year. We don't have to worry about that.
Correct.
Because it's just revenue loss and that's it. And we can just, for the next
We could do it in the
2
next budget
years,
year.
next couple years, we can just
Yeah.
use that
When we
for anything
budgeted
that comes up.
aside, we found some items that made sense to go
Yeah.
into revenue loss, which was the the
Right.
fans at the animal control and the, HV.
We actually have 2 budget cycles to do something with that money.
I will say that I'm working on the quarterly report that is due with the federal government. And as usual, I have hit a wall and have gotten no responses. Thanks to Latifa for trying. The actual
I'm very sorry.
you did what you could. So hopefully it'll just magically work when I go in there one of these days, because that's how they work. So there you go.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, honey, there's not a lot of patience involved, but yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, are there any other additional questions for Lisa? Doesn't look like it. Thank you very
No.
much.
Excellent report, thank you.
Just a here to you, to everybody who touches ARPA and everybody who has to deal with anybody who touches ARPA.
It's the gift that just keeps on giving.
It is.
Next, we have discussion and direction on amendment with the city of Cambridge regarding their American Rescue Plan agreement.
They did not join us. The request from the city of Cambridge was placed on your agenda. Essentially, what they applied for originally in October 2022, they have completed all that and it came in under budget. So they are requesting that the remainder, in the amount of $49,138.33 be able to be used to extend the project, to basically to further the project beyond the scope. What? Oh, no, I read the wrong.
Mhm.
$43,397.62 is what's remaining. Thank you. Do you have anything you want to add? No, I don't. I'm just glad they.
Seems to be consistent with what they originally asked for.
Mhm.
I have no problem with it.
I don't either. I guess my one question is that, so do they not know if these funds yet would be enough? Do they have matching funds? Because they are saying they want to check the possibility.
I think the way I understand it, they'll scale it to whatever they can based on their funding and then the ARPA funding that's
Gotcha.
available.
Okay, okay. I
That
don't
would-
have an issue.
That's a question we can ask them
Yeah,
and verify.
yeah.
So
Just
the
the other
process,
thing is possibility, check the possibility is what stood out to me.
the process would be, depending on your direction today, staff would draft an amendment, send it to Cambridge for signature, and then put on your consent agenda.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. Supervisor Faisal,
Yeah.
any concerns?
No, I don't think there's anything that sounds better than project came in under budget. So I have no problem with it.
Thank you.
Great, yep, thank you. Right, moving on. Any upcoming agenda items?
No.
No.
I will have probably a resolution next week for discussion on the comp board because of the legislation changes. And another was a letter of support from Nikki Fisher with the Alliance. I can't remember the new name now, the Alliance, Ames Regional Alliance, or whatever. They're looking just for a letter of support for us as they're looking to expand a program into Boone County and just recognizing the positive impact it's had here. And just a letter of support. So just letting you know that she just sent me an email on that. With that, we'll move on to public comment number 2, comments from the public on items not on this agenda. The board may not take any action on the comments due to the requirements of open meetings law, but may do so in the future. If anyone would like to make public comment and you're on Zoom, please raise your hand on Zoom, or if you're in the public meeting room, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public comment number 2, liaison assignments, community updates and announcements. Supervisor Faisal, do you want to start us out?
Sure. Sorry.
Nope, all right.
So I should be landing around 2:30, and then I'm going to stay in Des Moines because I have a SIRHA meeting this evening, the annual meeting. So I'm going to go to that. Tomorrow I have a Juneteenth committee meeting and a CCJ executive board meeting in the evening. And then Thursday I will be on KHOI in the morning. And then there is a hunger collaboration meeting in the afternoon. And looks like my Friday is unencumbered at this moment.
Thank you and safe travels back.
Thank you.
Supervisor Merkin?
Yeah, just a second. Okay, tomorrow we have Story County Emergency Management Commission meeting in the evening. Thursday morning, a CERTPA meeting. Thursday afternoon, an Iowa Creek WMA meeting. We haven't met for quite a while, so that'll be interesting to see what people are thinking. Don't have anything on the schedule for Friday. Next Monday, Crystal and I have a meeting with several department heads to do a after action review on the storm response and recovery from the May tornado and flooding. So, and seeing where we're going forward with that. So that will be a very interesting meeting. That's what I got.
I'm here today. Tomorrow I have a meeting in the morning over in Ames, so I'll be in probably closer to 11. Thursday, I'll be in all day. Friday, or I have a workforce finance subcommittee meeting. Friday, I have a regular workforce economic impact meeting. And then I have a private appointment mid-afternoon. And Monday, the 22nd, I may take that day off or be in closer to noon that day. And if there is nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
Aye.
Heddens, aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.